Welcome. This is I'm Michael Fletcher.
Matthew Fletcher.
We started this new podcast called Twins at Law. Producer Mark will tell you that this was a concept that I had 6 months ago when we were doing the Fletchcast, which is still on. And I said, dude, we have to get my brother. We have to do a show called Twins at Law, and this is it.
Wow, that's really an enlightening story. But Twins at Law starts with the fact that we may or may not be twins. The law part comes from the fact that we may or may not be incredibly well-trained and educated lawyers with an incredible level of sophisticated, high-volume, very, very interesting trials. You got to figure it out as we go along.
We've also both been the victims of the government coming after you. And one thing that we wanted to talk about, and we've been saying it from day one, is people don't understand when it comes to law, the fix is in. It is extraordinary. And one of the key topics we're going to go over repeatedly is bringing people their stories with the justice system directly to you guys so you could see what happens. And it's appalling.
But the twist is this, though. 99% of the people you see on these MSNBC or Fox Nation or whatever you call it have zero experience actually dealing with the criminal justice system or the judicial system, whether it's civil or criminal. Both of us come in with the amount of experience that can't really be touched. I've done this for 25 years. I've done far in excess of 100 literal trials, not walk in and plead, but literal trials. I've done it from the highest level.
So if you pleaded, it's not doing a trial.
It's not doing a trial, it turns out, and I'm not even sure that pleaded is really a word.
Plead? If you plead.
Plead is a word, but pleaded is not a word.
I said if you plead it.
So enunciation has no importance in this business.
Duly noted. So when you watch MSNBC and you see these kind of criminal experts, what percentage of them do you think have actually tried a legitimate murder case?
Well, none on murder cases.
You think it's none?
The go-to.
Well, let me ask this: defended versus prosecuted.
I'm a prosecutor, but that's not really being a lawyer.
Right.
I mean, what a prosecutor says is, and then what happened, and then what happened next,
and then they say, and they were black people and brown people.
Well, they literally, it is the linchpin of every prosecution you have. If you can get out that the person's black or brown or gay or poor, you got something that's built in that the jury will hate. And they'll sit there and they'll nod their head and say, I can be fair. All the while they've told them, he said, oh yeah, and this black person or this brown person's from a gang that kills, robs, and rapes. But can you be fair?
Statistically, what percentage, I mean, and you all don't know this, but this is just the truth. And one thing we're not going to do is focus on made up shit. But the truth is, if you are brown, poor, you make up what? 80% of prosecutions?
Of course.
80% of prosecutions?
And then 80% is being generous at best. You know, it's 99% of the people who are brought to trial are black or brown or poor or white. That's just the way it is. And there's no question about it. There's no doubt about it. You can do comparisons to the percentages of people in prison, and that's roughly going to be the same with the people who are brought to trial. Because if you don't have the money to have a great lawyer, you're just going to get convicted in 90% of the time. But let me answer one thing. When you have somebody on one of these shows and they say former federal prosecutor or former federal, the assistant U.S. attorneys don't try cases. The one federal case that I tried, because I specifically did state cases, they had 3 assistant USAs, and together they had a total of 3 trials combined. Total.
And
period.
And aside from that, or along with that, why is it that an associated problem with that is their conviction rate? If they've tried so few cases, why is their conviction rate so high?
You know,
because it's rigged.
Well, it's because
it's rigged.
Here's what they do. So you want to go to prison for the next 150 years? No. Well, then plead. Every one of them plead because you're able to make deals with the lowest of the low, the wretched of the wretched, and then they literally have people who come in and tailor their suits, clean them up, dress them up beautiful, and they walk them in after they've already told them what to say. Literally, they've negotiated what the testimony will be in about 90% of these cases. when you're talking about using these informants, there's nothing wrong with a legitimate person who says, I saw A, B, and C. There is something wrong with a person who says, I did A, B, and C, but I shouldn't be blamed. It should be this guy. And that's what you're talking about.
Well, and it's the coercive effect. It's what ends up happening, and this is what regular people don't understand is the government can throw so much just utter damage your way that you have no choice.
Right.
And they get away with that. And one thing we're going to talk about on this show a lot is having people understand. Another example, I talked about this on the Fletchcast, is that they did a survey of family law cases, and it's like 300 family law cases where they came into a divorce case, came in with in excess of $100,000 of family assets. Every single one, 100%, the people left with negative assets after the family law process.
But why is that analogous? The family law project is your old lady or your old man suing you. We're talking about when the government comes in and says, I'm going to take your freedom or your life based upon the word of this crackhead who literally we caught breaking into an old lady's house, and they have a record this mile long, and we're going to clean them up and come in and say you're a horrible person and this guy's going to prove it.
Well, it's analogous because the system is rigged, and the way it's set up is that the system is set up to allow certain things to happen. In family law cases, in divorce cases, the system is set up so that a group of lawyers, a group of court-appointed advocates, and the family law judge all get to take from people and take their basic assets. In a criminal case, it's set up so that you literally, even if you are 100% innocent, you still have to plead.
Yeah, but
they're exactly the same thing.
I thought we were going to do no bullshit to the audience.
There's no bullshit.
And there's bullshit.
How's that bullshit?
In a family law court, it's set up so people know, and everyone who knows anything about family law, that is directly happens to the man. 99% of time, the person who's losing everything is the father.
I agree.
It's not people, it's the father.
Yeah, I agree. As
long as we're clear about that.
Oh, yeah. But it's still rigged nevertheless.
Well,
but before we get into that, here's the first, and this is our first episode. Matthew and I are going to talk about our lives and what we've done, and we've both been targeted by the government. And it's astounding when people, when you've been through it, and then when you retrospectively look back and then prospectively look forward, and you look out there and you say, this thing is screwed. And so we started Twins at Law, and one of the topics we're always going to talk about is the NFL and how athletes are treated. Mark will attest to this, that on the Deshaun Watson case, I said from day one, it's on Fletchcast, I said, Deshaun Watson will be convicted in 0 cases, which is exactly what happened. And now where we're at is this issue of there's now a 23rd and 24th accuser against Deshaun Watson. And the first thing we're going to prove on Twins at Law is that when Roger Goodell and DeMaurice Smith set up their investigations to protect the integrity of the NFL, they have one standard for the pay no attention to me having sex with trafficked women, or pay no attention to me paying to lose a game, and for the accusations against the NFL owners. But then they have a different sanctimonious, unreasonable, nutty standard for players. And the Deshaun Watson case is perfect. And this is going to prove exactly what we're saying. In the NFL, an accusation alone, without context, is enough. So according to the NFL, to Roger Goodell and DeMaurice Smith, the fact that 24 women have made an accusation is sufficient to suspend this guy for a year. Now, what we're going to see and what we're going to prove on this episode of Twins at Law, our initial episode, is that there is one standard for players and another standard for owners.
Well,
and let me finish.
Yeah,
and here's the proof. Again, the standard is it an accusation without context? Is that sufficient? DeMaurice Smith, Roger Goodell, yes, that's sufficient. You can be suspended for a year. Yesterday or 2 days ago, the same accusers with the same lawyer, same accusations have now amended their suits. So there are now 24 lawsuits against the Houston Texans. So if the standard is the same, which it would have to be, then surely the Houston Texans, there's the same 24 allegations, same women, same lawyers, and we're going to prove that that is not the case.
Here's the problem with working with lawyers. A lot of times they get this word salad, and when you say you predicted that Deshaun wouldn't be convicted of any crimes, you jump completely over the fact before there can be a conviction, there has to be a charge. In this case, these cases, the allegations are so fucking weak, so non-existent. They couldn't even get not one, but 2 grand juries. And grand juries are famous for what, Michael?
You could indict a ham sandwich.
Because grand jurors come out and they're told only the bad part. The defendant doesn't get to be heard. The defendant doesn't get to defend his or herself. It's just the government presenting the evidence they have. Deshaun Watson, literally, they would not indict him on a misdemeanor because of the strength or the obvious weakness of the allegations.
The lack of context.
Lack of context or lack of evidence, but in either situation, generally you're presumed innocent, not if you're a minority, not if you're a minority member, or certainly not if you're in the NFL when the guy fighting for you, DeMaurice Smith and Gattel, who's fighting for the owners, has already established that you're going to lose. Even if 2 separate grand juries say, these people are completely unbelievable. They're so unbelievable. They're so incredible. We're not even going to file a misdemeanor. But then you have all of these people running around like their hair's on fire saying, oh, Deshaun Watson, he's the second coming of Satan.
Well, but now, but for clarity, I was the only person saying Deshaun Watson is not going to get charged. So
only person in the whole fucking world.
Well, I'll tell you what, you find one person on the internet or anywhere who said Deshaun Watson would not be charged. You find one. But before we do that, but the issue here, though, is also with respect to Deshaun Watson, and it's also this now. There are these 24 civil suits now. And again, our point here, or one of the points we want to make is that an accusation out of context is fairly meaningless. If someone walked into a place and said, this guy walked up to me, he snap kicked me in the stomach, elbowed me in the head, and then pounded my face when I was on the ground, and you said, that's outrageous, he should be charged. And you didn't mention, oh, by the way, I was at an MMA fight and I was a combatant. Context matters. And so what's happened here is...
Well, it has to be, I was at an MMA fight and I was the combatant, and that happened in the ring. Because you could be at an MMA fight and a combatant in the next fight, and Deshaun Watson walks up and beats the shit out of you in the audience. But what we're talking about is that
even that context would matter, because you would say we're at an MMA fight and people running their mouth. The simple truth of the matter is that these 24 women have their allegations have been made without context. And the context is you are a stripper, a prostitute, an unlicensed massage therapist. That context matters, and we're going to prove it. And again, this double standard, because the Houston Texans as a team have been named now in all 24 of these suits. That's what we're going to work on. This is our first episode.
But just for clarity's sake, the prostitute, the stripper, whatever it is, we've got to distinguish between a sex worker and a non-sex worker. And in the context that I hire or contract with a sex worker to perform his, or to be fair, his or her job, then the context matters. Because if I walk in and I pull my cock out and say, suck my dick.
Just out of the blue. At 7-Eleven. Who wants to suck my dick?
Well, you said you have big gulps. I mean, literally that context matters. If I fly you in and I say, wear a dress with no panties, reference back to Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
And at some point in time during this episode that you're being paid for, I ask you to suck my dick. I think the context is of the most importance in that circumstance, because again, you're not walking in the 7-Eleven. Well, you are at 7-Eleven. You're asking for a Slim Jim, a box of cigarettes, and a cup of coffee,
and one of those perfect hot dogs. Also, though, and it is important, and this 24th allegation, this is one that is just over the top. The third time he goes back, she says, and he was begging for a blowjob.
Right.
Now, I'm just saying this. If begging for a blowjob, if a man begging for a blowjob from a person he's seen more than once is criminal or sufficient to cause you to lose your jobs, I mean, it's Joe Biden couldn't help you.
Well, Joe Biden is probably too Catholic to beg for a blowjob, even pray for a blowjob.
What about Hunter, though?
Hunter's
negotiated some
Hunter would
blowjobs.
negotiate some blowjobs.
He has done that. This is Twins at Law. We can't wait to hear from you guys. This is our first episode. Thank you. Appreciate it. Should we make fun of Mark and Reese, or just let them go?
He might say you
That
asked
would be
for a
harassment.
blowjob,
Oh yeah. We had the blowjob conversation.
You did, but that was off camera,
All right.
allegedly.
All right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next episode.